Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Montcast. We're skipping right over what's popular because there's not too much of note there, but your new game this week is a little noteworthy. It's called Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire, and in it you pursue a rogue god over land and sea, in the sequel to the multi-award-winning RPG Pillars of Eternity. Many of you likely remember that game. This is literally the sequel to it. You captain your ship on a dangerous voyage of discovery across the vast unexplored region of Deadfire, and I'll leave the Steam link in the episode description. It is a little more on the pricey side than some of the other games I've featured. So maybe you want to check out some gameplay on Twitch to see if this game is for you before you drop your hard-earned money on this game. But the Steam link will be there for you in the episode description. So in video game news, we have a couple things of note this week. So let's get to it. Charity gaming in general is on a massive surge, and this is just amazing. I personally play for Extra Life. That's not on such a big surge at the moment, but right now Overwatch has the Charity Mercy skin, where you can buy the pink Mercy skin and support, I believe that cause is breast cancer for the Mercy skin specifically. And there are a ton of St. Jude and St. Jude Play Live events where, if you haven't guessed, gamers play their games and raise money for St. Jude, which is just awesome. There's a lot of events going on, a lot of money being raised for St. Jude, which is, of course, fantastic. We now know a little bit more about the new League of Legends support. Pyke is the new League of Legends support, and he is known as the Blood Harbor Ripper. This is in complete stark contrast to everything, all the characters that League of Legends has released this year. It's been chock full of characters full of optimistic charm, Zoe taking that a couple levels further, but Pyke definitely does not fit in that category, and he has been called nightmare fuel across many platforms that are talking about this new character. His expected release on the live patch will come on patch 8.11, or 8.11 if you prefer. Dota 2, the popular MOBA game, has a Battle Royale mode. So that's the thing. I'm just gonna leave that there. Steam Link is coming to mobile platforms. That's actually a big deal. For those of you who don't know what Steam Link is, it's essentially a piece of hardware that allows you to play your PC Steam games on your TV. It is now coming to mobile platforms that is going to allow you to play your PC, the games on your computer and your Steam library right on your phone or your tablet. So that is actually really big news, and I'm really looking forward to that rolling out. Obviously, some of the games are going to work a little better on a mobile platform, but it will be very interesting. Even if each person only has a couple games they can play, I'm sure they will use that, and it'll be a great source of entertainment, especially for people who don't have room for lots of games on their phone, because it's chock full of Be the Swarm apps. No one in particular that I might be mentioning there. EA, or Electronic Arts, will push forward with loot boxes in their video games. I personally believe this is the right move. This is the future of video games. but they have stated that they are obviously going to be very careful to be in accordance with the law. For those of you who don't know, there's been a lot of legal pushback on loot boxes in video games where you buy essentially a chest with a mystery item in it, and whether that constitutes gambling or not. EA is going on the record saying they will continue with loot box style prizes, but they will either publish the odds of getting what items or whatever they have to do so that they don't get slapped with a lawsuit. Twitch countersued Phantom Lord. So for those of you who don't know, Phantom Lord was banned from Twitch a long time ago, years ago, and he recently sued Twitch for breaching their contract. And I don't really want to get into this story. You can look it up, but Twitch is countersuing him, and I think they have the legal upper hand in this situation, but I honestly don't know that much about the specific legal case, and I don't want to get into it. If you're interested, you can do your own research there. Ninja is starting to become more of a family-friendly streamer. I'm talking about the Twitch streamer, and his community is pushing back, but quite frankly, this is likely for money, because he will attract more lucrative sponsors if he's got a family-friendly community and stream. He will attract more lucrative sponsors than if he has an extremely toxic community. So I honestly feel like his numbers are probably going to go down, but it's probably in his best interest. And I think that this is more the future of Twitch. Yeah, we're still going to have those toxic communities, and those toxic communities, some of them aren't going to care about sponsorships, and they're just going to do what they do for fun. And that's going to be great for those people that want that. But I think more and more the most popular streamers on Twitch are going to slowly but surely drift towards the family-friendly end of things. League of Legends is changing their 9-year-old in-game cursor, so the mouse you see in League of Legends finally getting changed after 9 years. So I'm not sure how I feel about this. It's all I've ever known, obviously, in this game, so it will be interesting to see what they come out with next, and how and why they think whatever they've got coming up is better than what already exists. Valve, the video game company behind Steam and some of the biggest games ever, has bought out the Firewatch developers, but they still have creative freedom. But they all now work for Valve, the whole team. And they are working on a new project. I believe this project is partially complete, now to be completed under the Valve banner. Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, if I could talk. It's coming earlier than expected to PC, Switch, and Xbox One. I believe they've pushed it up about 2.5 weeks. So obviously the development or the distributor, something came through significantly faster than they were expecting. And they're going to release those games sooner rather than later. So if you're looking forward to the Crash Bandicoot games, they will be out sooner rather than later. So yeah. Destiny 2 claims to have a new style of play for first-person shooter games. I guess I'll believe it when I see it. I am not totally convinced that they have something that groundbreaking, but it's apparently on the way in the fall DLC, downloadable content. So I'm sure if they do, it will be newsworthy and I will cover it then. Quake Champions is rolling out bots, but they won't say whether these are offline bots to allow for offline gameplay or whether they are online bots to fill a queue so players don't have to wait for as many players to join the game before they can get into a game of Quake Champions. Hearthstone is going to roll out balance patches, but they're smarter than Dota, and they are going to do this after the Hearthstone Championship Tour playoffs, which will be the end of May. And that's it for video game news. And your indie game this week is called City of Brass. It's a first-person action-adventure inspired by Arabian Nights, and it's from senior BioShock developers. There's a link in this. There's a Steam link in the episode description for you. And in esports, it's a pretty exciting time in certain esports and not so much in other esports. But either way, we're gonna get to it. Obviously, well, I shouldn't say that, but one of the biggest esports events to happen this past week was the Dota 2 Epicenter Major. Yes, this is the same tournament that was interrupted by a patch that I reported on in the last week's episode. But the major is done, and Team Liquid falls in the final. They are one of the elite teams, but they could not get the match in the grand final. LGD is your Epicenter Major champion. They take LGD, that is, take $500,000 for first place. Team Liquid, a mere $200,000. So that last place match was a huge difference in what was $1 million prize pool for this tournament. But these top teams are earning points towards qualifying for the International coming up later this year, which is, for those of you who don't know, essentially the World Championships for Dota 2 and widely considered the Super Bowl of esports. Both of these teams are earning a lot of points towards qualifying for that tournament. On to CSGO, which, if the Epicenter Major was not the biggest event of the week in esports, IEM, or Intel Extreme Masters, Sydney definitely was. Now, FaZe Clan did get their Intel Extreme Masters title finally. They got that over Astralis in a best of 5 that ended 3-0. However, this was one of the closest 3-0 series ever. One of the maps went to overtime, one of them went to double overtime, and one of them went to round 30, which is the last round before overtime. So this was one of the closest matches of the entire tournament, despite the fact the best of 5 ended 3-0 in favor of FaZe Clan. In other CSGO news, Nothing's contract with Cloud9 has ended. Cloud9 is just going through a rough patch. Ever since they won the Boston Major tournament, it's been all over the place with roster shuffles. Now, FNS has stated that he's uncomfortable in the current Cloud9 system. For those of you who don't know, each Counter-Strike Global Offensive and Esports team has their own system and their way of doing things in regards to training. FNS has stated that the Cloud9 system might not be working for him. Now, Nothing's contract is over, so it's just they've been all over the place since they won one of the biggest tournaments in Counter-Strike Global Offensive. And back to Intel Extreme Masters Sydney, there's a bit of a funny story. So for those of you who don't know, it's somewhat of an Australian tradition to do what's known as a shoey, where someone takes a drink, typically beer, from their own shoe. Yes, it's as disgusting as it sounds, but hear me out. It's become increasingly popular in the Counter-Strike Global Offensive scene, particularly at major esports events. One fan at Intel Extreme Masters Sydney this year was evicted for doing one of these shoeys, and there was a massive protest shoey after this, organized on Reddit, because it's an esports tournament. It's basically the internet in a room where 7,000 people raised their footwear in support of the evictee. And, it sounds weird, but it was really funny to watch. Anyways, moving on. LCS. So the League Championship Series, the MSI play-ins are complete. That's the mid-season invitational. The group stages are now underway. The Flash Wolves and Evos Gaming were the teams to make it out of the play-ins into the group stage. And notably, roster-wise, SOAS is back for Fnatic in the team lineup for the mid-season invitational. Dara, what a terrible story for Dara. He's a pro League of Legends player from Korea that was playing in Japan, and he retired from pro League of Legends after a truly traumatic time in Japan. So Riot has acted on behalf of Dara, not on behalf of Dara, but in support of Dara. And then they had to apologize. It's a big thing, and you can look up the full story if you want, but the TLDR is essentially Dara's team didn't want him to leave, and it was kind of a toxic environment for him to be in. He wanted to leave. Ultimately, his team stole his Japanese residency card, and he just had to end it, of course. His team was punished. His team was essentially disqualified from their remaining games in I believe the spring split over in Japan. So they auto-lost all of their games as an organization. But just truly unfortunate for Dara that he had to go through this, and he's decided that he is done with playing professional League of Legends. And I don't think anyone can really blame him, but his team has been punished, and I suspect there are harsher punishments coming to two specific members of that team who were responsible for the residency card incident. Moving on. Sneaky is killing it with some more awesome cosplays of League of Legends characters. You should give it a Google if you're interested in seeing Sneaky dressed up as some cool League of Legends characters. He does a really tremendous job in coming up with these. All the KSV teams are now rebranded to Gen G. This includes all the teams that used to fly under the Samsung banner or be sponsored by Samsung. They are all now Gen G, with the obvious exception of the Seoul Dynasty Overwatch League team from South Korea. They are obviously still branded as the Seoul Dynasty because it's a location-based team. So Gen G is a new sponsor for that team, and fortunately, after a couple of rebrandings in the last year, it looks like this one might be a more permanent brand name, but there's still money out there, so it's always subject to change, I guess. Schalke 04 will be leaving the European LCS after the summer split and will not apply for franchising next year. And also on a side note, there are many Premier League teams that might be applying for European franchising slots in the European League Championship Series, but we don't know yet. But Schalke has said that they are leaving the European LCS after this year. And the last little bit of League of Legends news is that Gate has joined Optic over in North America as their support. He is one of the most elite supports and will no doubt be a tremendous asset to that team. On to the Overwatch League. Boston Uprising completed Stage 3, a perfect 10 wins, 0 losses in their 10 matches, heading into the Stage 3 playoffs. And then the Stage 3 playoffs went down. Both semifinals ended 3-0 in a best-of-5 series. And then the grand finals between the New York Excelsior and the Boston Uprising was also a 3-0. The New York Excelsior won. However, misleadingly, that was actually a 4-game match. One of the maps ended in a tie, despite it being a best-of-5. So the 3-0 was actually over the course of 4 games in the grand final. And it was an exciting grand final to watch, but the scores in the Stage 3 playoffs were nothing to write home about. They were not generally close matches. After their 14-match winning streak came to an end, the Boston Uprising coach leaves the team and joins the San Francisco Shock. The move was described as mutual on both ends, from the coach's perspective and the team's perspective there. The Overwatch League patch for Stage 4 will not include the new Hanzo or nerfed Bridget. But a lot of the players and teams are pushing back against this. It does feel like it's too late to change it now, though. So we are going to see some overpowered Bridget dominating Stage 4. There's a chance that we will see a new patch for the overall playoffs at the end of it, but the Stage 4 playoffs will happen on whatever patch the rest of Stage 4 takes place on. The Hearthstone Championship Tour America's Summer Playoffs, and by Americas I'm talking about the continents, North and South America. To be clear, the Summer Playoffs will take place on May 12th and May 13th. The European Summer Playoffs are already complete. NBA 2K, just a quick recap. The 76ers won the NBA 2K tip-off tournament over Blazer 5 Gaming. And the regular season starts on Friday, May the 11th, which is the day this episode releases. And over in Formula 1, the Williams team has launched its own esports team, and they plan on competing in several racing simulator esports. So I guess good luck to them. They are not the first Formula 1 team to do this, and might not be the last. I, Montcast832, operate Montcast out of pocket, and everything including upcoming side projects that are slated to launch this summer are included in that. I do not accept tips or donations towards covering operating fees, but instead, if you wish to support the podcast, I ask for a donation to my Extra Life page that supports my Children's Miracle Network hospital, and as such, it grants tax receipts for every donation. I'll leave a link to my Extra Life page in the episode description if you'd like to help the kids and get tax receipts for your efforts. And with that, I'm going to leave you with subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thank you to those of you who are listening to Montcast on the Radio Public mobile app. It really helps out. For those of you who don't know, I get paid 2 cents for every time someone listens to a new episode of Montcast on the Radio Public app. And if one individual listens to 3 episodes, I get a one-time loyal listener bonus of $1. And this income will get donated to my Extra Life page when it pays out, which is every so often. But you will be able to see that on my Extra Life page if you click over to the donations tab when that happens. And of course, thank you to Approaching Nirvana for the wonderful background music in this week's episode of Montcast. I'll see you next Friday.